My friends, we gather today in a moment that echoes across the chambers of time, a moment not unlike those faced by the prophets, by kings, by shepherds and warriors of old. You may think your challenges are new, unique, isolated to your own life, but I tell you they are not. What you face now has been faced before, and what you overcome now will echo into eternity. For every path of true success is marked not by ease, but by trial, not by comfort, but by the fire. When Joseph was sold into slavery, the path to success led through a pit, then a prison, and only then to a palace. When David was anointed king, the crown did not fall upon his head in a moment of glory, but after years of exile, betrayal, and wilderness. You want the promise, then be prepared for the process, for every promise comes with a journey, and every journey is marked by testing. The challenge is not the enemy, it is the doorway. You see, we often cry out, why this trial, why this obstacle? But the question is not why. The question is who. Who will you become in the fire? Who will you be when the storm comes? The path of success does not avoid the storm, it walks through it, with eyes fixed on something higher. There is a mystery of the olive tree. It must be crushed to release its oil. The grape must be pressed to release its wine. So too must your spirit be refined, not broken, but purified. Through the pressure, do not despise the crushing, do not curse the pressing, for it is preparing you for the weight of glory. How then do you face the challenge? First, you remember who you are, not a product of failure, not a victim of the storm, but a child of destiny, a vessel of purpose. You were not made to break, you were made to rise. Second, you must not walk by what you see. The waves may rise, the winds may howl, but success does not come to those who bow to circumstance. It comes to those who walk by faith. When Peter looked at the storm, he sank. But when he looked at the one above the storm, he walked on water. What you behold, you will become. And third, do not walk alone. Even the greatest heroes of old had their allies. Moses had Aaron. Paul had Silas. Ruth had Naomi. Surround yourself with those who sharpen you, who call you higher, who remind you of the promise when all you see is the pain. And finally, never forget this. The challenge is not the end. The Red Sea was not the end. The lion's den was not the end. The cross was not the end. The grave was not the end. What looks like the end is often just the beginning. So rise, even if you rise with trembling knees. Walk, even if you walk with wounded feet. Speak, even if your voice shakes, because the world is not waiting for perfection. It is waiting for purpose, and you, yes, you, were born for such a time as this. Face the challenge and let the fire forge your crown. Amen. Every path to true success is marked by trial. This is a truth woven into the fabric of time, from ancient days to our present moment. We often imagine success as a smooth ascent, a golden staircase leading effortlessly to a throne of achievement, but that is a fantasy. The real path is rugged, uneven, and lined with opposition. Look through the pages of history and sacred texts alike, and you will see that those who were destined for greatness first walked through darkness. Before the crown, there was the cave. Before the breakthrough, there was the breaking. Trials are not detours on the road to success. They asterisk the road. Each one is a forge, shaping the soul and purifying the motive. Without resistance, muscles never grow strong. Without the flame, gold remains hidden in ore. So it is with every man and woman called to a higher purpose. They must pass through seasons of pressing, testing, and refining. These trials strip away what is false, what is weak, what is temporary. What remains is what is unshakable. Consider the seed. Before it becomes a tree, it must fall, be buried, and endure the darkness of the soil. That darkness is not death. It is transformation. And yet, in the midst of the trial, we are tempted to quit, to question the journey, to doubt the call. That is when the challenge becomes sacred, for it is in those moments, when nothing makes sense and the way is hidden, that faith is born not in comfort, but in conflict. Success that is not forged in trial is shallow and fleeting, but success that endures the storm is rooted, grounded, and cannot be moved. Trials do not block your path to success, they reveal it. The challenge is not the enemy, it is the doorway. It may come disguised as hardship, as failure, as betrayal, or as loss, but in truth, it stands at the threshold of transformation. Most people run from challenges, seeing them as barriers to be avoided. But in the kingdom of purpose, what seems like a wall is often a gate. Every great destiny has its guardian, its trial, its storm, its struggle, and only those who press through find what lies beyond. Challenges expose what is hidden. They draw out courage you didn't know you had, perseverance you didn't know you needed, and wisdom that cannot be taught in comfort. They demand more of you, and in doing so, they reveal more of you. Without the challenge, potential remains dormant, like a sword that has never seen battle. But when confronted, when faced with faith and endurance, the challenge becomes the means by which your purpose is activated. The doorway is narrow, it doesn't open to those who shrink back. It opens to those who step forward, even trembling, even uncertain. Many see the pain and turn away, but those who recognize the purpose behind the pain step into something greater. The very thing you fear may be the threshold to your next level. The enemy may have sent it to break you, but heaven can use it to build you. What was meant to stop, you can become the thing that launches you. Do not be deceived by appearances. The obstacle in front of you is not your destruction. It is your invitation, an invitation to rise higher, to dig deeper, to walk through a door that only opens under pressure. That pressure is not a curse. It is the sign that you are close to something that matters. The promise comes with a process. We often cling to the vision of success, of calling, of breakthrough. But what we forget is that every divine promise is accompanied by a journey, and that journey is rarely immediate. The promise may be revealed in a moment, but its fulfillment is unfolded over time through a process that tests, shapes, and prepares. It is one thing to be given a glimpse of destiny, it is another to be made ready to carry it. The process is not a punishment, it is preparation. When the promise is delayed, it is not denied. Instead, it is being aligned with the transformation that must take place within you. There are things in your life that cannot go with you into your next season. There are attitudes that must be burned away, fears that must be confronted, and faith that must be built layer by layer. The process is where these things happen. It is the ground where greatness is cultivated. Look at those who were given great promises: Abraham, Joseph, Moses, David. None of them received the fulfillment instantly. Each was taken through years, even decades, of waiting, wrestling, wandering. Why? Because the promise is heavy, and you must be strengthened to bear it. The weight of the calling requires the depth of the process. Without it, what was meant to bless you could crush you. The process teaches trust. It teaches obedience when the road is unclear and the skies are silent. It teaches you to walk not by sight, but by every word spoken over your life. It weans you off of pride, off of control, off of shortcuts. It teaches endurance, character, and the kind of maturity that sustains success, not just for a moment, but for a lifetime. Crushing precedes the release of purpose. This is a principle embedded not only in nature, but in the very pattern of divine preparation. The olive must be crushed to release its oil. The grape must be pressed to pour out its wine. Without the crushing, the value within remains sealed, hidden, untapped. So it is with the human soul. The calling, the purpose, the anointing, it does not emerge in times of ease, but in the pressing seasons, the moments that seem to undo you. It is in the crushing that what is false falls away. Pride is broken. Superficial strength is exposed. The outer shell that we depend on, our talents, our image, our control, is shattered so that the true treasure can come forth. The world celebrates strength, but heaven reveals that brokenness often comes before true power. There is a sacredness in the moments where everything seems to fall apart, because those are often the moments where the deeper work begins. Many resist the crushing, thinking it is a sign of failure, a sign that something has gone wrong. But in truth, the crushing is often a confirmation that something deeper is being formed. The crushing doesn't destroy the olive, it releases what it was created for. In the same way, your pain is not always the enemy of your purpose. It may be the very process that unlocks it. This is why some of the greatest people to ever walk in purpose were also those who suffered deeply. Their wisdom was not born in classrooms, but in valleys. Their authority didn't come from titles, but from scars. What makes their voice powerful is not what they escaped, but what they endured. The crushing is not the end, it is the beginning of becoming who you were always meant to be. Remember who you are, a vessel of destiny. In times of challenge, it is easy to forget your identity. Circumstances scream that you are weak, failures whisper that you are disqualified, and delays try to convince you that you are forgotten. But none of these voices speak the truth. You are not defined by the storm around you, but by the purpose placed within you. Before the trial ever came, the calling was already spoken. Before the pain entered your life, a plan had already been set in motion. You were not born by accident. You were formed with intention, fashioned in secret with gifts, strengths, and a mission only you can fulfill. The world may overlook you, but heaven never has. Your existence is proof that there is something in you this generation needs. You carry something eternal, something sacred, something chosen. And yet, the enemy of your soul works tirelessly to make you forget. He does not fear who you are today. He fears who you will become if you ever awaken to your true identity. When you remember who you are, you walk differently. You speak with clarity, stand with authority, and endure with resilience. You stop living for approval and start living from assignment. The voices of fear, doubt, and comparison lose their power when you understand that you were made for more. You do not carry an ordinary name. You carry destiny. And destiny does not depend on the absence of problems. It depends on the presence of purpose. To remember who you are is to rise above the lies. It is to reach back into the truth that was spoken over you before time began. You are not what you lost, not what you did, and not what others say. You are what you were called to be, even before you saw the first trial. Walk by faith, not by sight. The path to your purpose will often lead you through places that look nothing like the promise. You will face moments where everything around you contradicts what you believe you are called to do. The doors may be closed, the resources may be lacking, and the voices around you may question your direction. If you rely solely on what your eyes see, you will retreat. But faith is not anchored in appearances. It is rooted in the unseen, in the word that was spoken over your life before the evidence appeared. Sight is limited. It sees the obstacle, the giant, the wall. Faith sees the outcome beyond the opposition. Where sight sees a wilderness, faith sees a way. Where sight sees lack, faith sees provision not yet revealed. To walk by faith is to step when the next stone has not yet appeared. It is to trust that the one who called you has already prepared the path, even if it is hidden from view. Faith is not wishful thinking. It is not blind optimism. It is obedience in motion. It is the decision to keep moving forward when every visible sign says turn back. It is a higher vision, one that sees through the temporary and holds fast to the eternal. Faith does not deny reality, but it refuses to be ruled by it. Those who have done great things have always walked this way. Noah built before the rain. Abraham left before he knew the destination. Esther stepped forward without knowing the outcome. They chose faith over fear and purpose over comfort. Faith is the fuel of destiny, and those who walk by it tap into a strength not their own. They are carried not by sight, but by promise. What you behold, you will become. The focus of your attention shapes the direction of your life. You are not only influenced by what surrounds you, but by what you choose to fix your eyes on. If your gaze is constantly drawn to fear, failure, and doubt, those things begin to take root in your thoughts, your words, and eventually your actions. But if your eyes are lifted to truth, to hope, to the vision set before you, then your life begins to align with what you see. There is a spiritual law at work. What fills your vision fills your heart, and what fills your heart leads your life. This is why in times of challenge it is vital to guard your focus. Distraction is one of the greatest tools of delay. If the enemy cannot destroy you, he will try to distract you, pulling your attention away from your purpose and placing it on problems, comparisons, or comforts. But where your focus goes, your future follows. When Peter walked on water, he did not sink because the wind grew stronger. It was already there. He sank because he shifted his gaze from the one who called him to the storm that threatened him. The storm didn't change, but his focus did. And with it his faith faltered. What you behold has the power to either lift you or sink you. It determines whether you walk in authority or collapse under pressure. To behold something is more than a passing glance. It means to fix your eyes, to meditate, to absorb. When you behold the truth of who you are, the calling on your life, and the one who leads you, you begin to reflect that truth. You rise into it. Your character aligns with your vision, and your steps begin to match your identity. Do not face battles alone. Walk with allies. Every great journey demands strength, but not the kind that isolates. True strength knows when to stand and when to lean. The path to purpose was never meant to be walked in solitude. From the beginning, partnership was part of the design. Iron sharpens iron, and a cord of 3 strands is not easily broken. Even the strongest fall when they walk alone, not because they are weak, but because isolation blinds and wears down the soul. In moments of trial, the instinct may be to withdraw, to hide your struggle, to carry the weight in silence. But hidden battles grow heavier, and secrets drain strength. Allies are not a sign of weakness. They are a sign of wisdom. David had Jonathan, Paul had Timothy, Moses had Aaron. Each assignment of destiny came with a companion of purpose. You were not created to walk through valleys without voices around you to remind you of the mountaintop. The right allies call you higher. They speak truth when you are tempted by lies. They hold up your arms when the battle grows long. They see the treasure in you when you've forgotten it yourself. Allies are not just encouragers. They are mirrors, guards, and sometimes the voice of God when your own faith is failing. To walk with the right people is to multiply strength, to share vision, and to carry each other through the seasons where standing alone would mean falling. But not all company is the right company. Who you walk with determines the clarity of your journey. Align yourself with those who challenge your comfort but confirm your calling, who don't compete with you but complete your mission. The battle is real, but you do not have to face it without someone beside you. What looks like the end is often just the beginning. In the moments when doors slam shut, when dreams seem to crumble, and when the night feels endless, it is easy to believe that your story is over. But the darkest hour often precedes the dawn. What appears as final defeat may be the setup for a greater victory. The grave was not the end for the greatest hope the world has ever known. It was the doorway to resurrection. So too with your life. Endings have a way of disguising new beginnings. The closing of one chapter makes way for the opening of another, but our eyes often fail to see beyond the closure. We grieve what is lost and miss the promise that is forming. The journey to success is full of moments that look like failure, but are actually preparation. You may be walking through a season of loss, disappointment, or confusion, but that does not mean your purpose has failed. it means it is shifting. History is full of those who stood on the edge of what seemed like the end and found themselves stepping into a new beginning. Joseph was sold into slavery, and it looked like the end of his dream, but it was the start of his rise. Moses fled into exile, and it seemed like his calling was over, but it was the preparation for leading a nation. Esther faced a death sentence, but it became the moment that saved her people. When you face what looks like an end, resist the urge to quit. That moment is often the pivot point. It is where you either turn back or press forward into something new. The pain of endings can blind us to the possibilities ahead. But if you hold on, if you trust beyond what you see, you will find that the next step is waiting on the other side. You were born for such a time as this. Every person carries within them a purpose that is uniquely suited to the moment they live in. Your life is not an accident of history or circumstance. You were positioned exactly where you are to influence, to lead, to change the course of events around you. There is a divine timing that surrounds your existence, and it calls you to rise up and fulfill the mission assigned to you before you were born. This truth is a call to courage. It reminds you that your struggles, your challenges, and your victories are all part of a greater plan. The world is watching, waiting for the contribution only you can make. Your gifts, your voice, and your story have the power to shift atmospheres and inspire change. To live beneath your calling is to live beneath your potential. Too often, people shrink back, believing they are too small, too broken, or too late. But the truth is the opposite. The very difficulties you face are what make your testimony powerful. You were created not in spite of your time, but for it. History has always been shaped by those who, in their generation, dared to stand, to speak, and to act. You are part of that ongoing story. Understanding that you were born for such a time as this gives you strength to persevere when the road is hard. It calls you to embrace your identity and step into your role with confidence. The circumstances around you may be chaotic, but within you is a calm assurance that you are exactly where you need to be, called for a purpose that only you can fulfill. Your life is no accident, and your calling is no mistake.